The drama stars Robert Pattinson and Zendaya as engaged couple Charlie and Emma. A week before their wedding, they discuss the worst thing they've ever done. After Emma reveals her secret, everything goes downhill. Thanks to TMZ, I was spoiled about what the big reveal was. But that didn't deter me from wanting to see the drama, to see how these events unfolded, and of course, the aftermath of the big reveal. And after seeing the film for myself, I could understand why there was backlash and concern after the early screenings, and the subject of the TMZ article. Some people even think that there should have been a warning before this film, like a content disclaimer. But for it being an A24 film, that was a disclaimer. If you've seen A24 films, you know that they could get pretty messed up sometimes. Plus, it's an R-rated film too, so there you go. Even though there are scenes in the drama that are pretty controversial, I still think this film does a great job of posing the question, is love truly unconditional? By the way, welcome to Tea and Popcorn, where we spill the tea on all things movies. I'm your host, Megan, and welcome to this cozy virtual tea party and movie club for the film girlies. Here, we believe that movies are, in fact, that deep. So we are going to dive deep into the movie, the drama, and I want to discuss about what this film tells us about the real world, especially regarding relationships. Yes, there's a relationship at the center of this film, but it is far from a romantic movie. Yes, it's technically a rom-com, but it's a dark rom-com, and it's barely a dramedy. Like the film suggests, it really hones into the drama, even though there are some laughs here and there. But it does go into psychological thriller territory, and even though the twist is extreme, it unfortunately does mirror reality. Because this is a deep dive, I'm going to get into spoilers, so save this video for later if you do not want any spoilers, and we'll chat then. But for the rest of us, let's dive in. The film opens with Charlie trying to write his wedding speech. He talks about how much he loves Emma. He talks about how they met. They met at a coffee shop while Emma was reading a book that he hadn't heard of. So to start a conversation, he pretends that he did read the book. He comes up to her, she doesn't respond, but it's revealed that she is deaf in one ear, and she had an AirPod in the other ear. Charlie comes back, she removes her AirPod, and the rest is history. And as Charlie is writing, he's getting feedback from his best man, named Mike, played by Mamadou Achi. And this is such a great sequence because it truly does set up the film. And there is a lot of foreshadowing within this one scene. Before the couple head to the venue to finalize their wedding menu, Charlie and Emma see their wedding DJ, Parlene, smoking. They contemplate whether or not they should fire her or if they actually saw what they saw. When they're at the location to finalize the wedding menu, they're joined by Mike and his wife Rachel, played by Alana Hayam. Technically, she's the matron of honor because she's married, but the film calls the role maid of honor. Emma and Charlie bring up the incident with the DJ, and this starts a conversation about people doing bad things and what's the worst thing that they have done. Mike and Rachel share that before their wedding day, they told each other the worst thing that they have ever done, and reluctantly, they all share their secrets. Mike reveals while on a trip with his ex-girlfriend, they were walking down an alley where there was a vicious dog. His ex-girlfriend kicked the dog a couple times, but then Mike used her as a human shield to protect himself against the dog. Rachel said she locked her mentally disabled neighbor in an RV closet and left him there overnight and didn't tell anyone about it. She did say that they eventually found him, but she wanted to keep the secret because she didn't want to get in trouble. Charlie reveals that he cyberbullied one of his classmates, that he bullied him so bad that his family ended up moving. And now comes Emma's secret. I'm gonna have to censor a lot what I say within the YouTube version of this because I'm still trying to get monetized and I really don't want to use euphemisms for this because they come off as pretty annoying and it takes away from the weight of these serious topics. So if you want to see the unedited version for free, it is available on the podcast version wherever you get your podcast, and there is a video version on Spotify. And I'll link that in the description if you want the unedited version. And Emma's secret is that she planned a school when she was 15, but she didn't go through with it. She also revealed why she's deaf in one ear, that she was practicing her shots in the woods with her dad's. And this reveal shocks the entire table. And in their eyes, Emma did the worst thing because she thought about doing something horrific. And Rachel freaks out because she says that her cousin is paralyzed because of violence, which is something that she hasn't brought up previously. There's a lot of tension in the table and Emma gets sick, whether that be from nervousness or that she had a lot of wine, or maybe both. but the dinner ends after that. Emma and Charlie do try to talk about it the next morning, but Emma does get sick while trying to explain it again. But she does eventually explain what happened in detail. She explains that she got bullied when she was 15 in school and she was a loner. She got the idea because she was in online community surrounding gun violence, and she was fascinated by the aesthetics of through these forums. On top of that, she was very depressed. She would take photos with her father's rifles and even attempted to make a manifesto online. There was a that happened at a mall, which 3 people, including one of her classmates. After seeing how this affected her school, she decided not to go through with the She starts crying during assembly and starts making friends with an anti-gun violence group. And she joins. Charlie is taken aback because he assumes that the only reason why she didn't go through with the is because someone else did it before her, and found it interesting that she would join an anti-gun violence group after that, as if nothing happened. And this is when it starts becoming more of a psychological thriller, because Charlie then starts seeing Emma in a different light. And we're starting to see things from Charlie's perspective. We start seeing images of Emma as a teen holding, which are very disturbing. We also see a nightmare sequence from Emma where the entire wedding reception are going back to the TMZ article that I was referring to. The article was about Tom Mauser, whose son Daniel was in the 1999 Columbine, was disgusted by this film's twist and condemned it. To quote the article, Mauser, an outspoken gun reform activist ever since his son was says he's completely floored that anyone would think of a school shooting would be a good fit for a romantic comedy, even a dark one, and tells us it's awful that one of the shocking twists to make someone rethink their partner, this is where the filmmakers landed. The subject of a rom-com starring a beloved actress like Zendaya humanizes shooters and normalizes the To reiterate, Z's character did not go through with the shooting, and mouse violence is not depicted in the film. End quote. And I want to hold space for that opinion because it is very valid, especially for someone that has lost their child to violence. And even though that sequence with her planning the shooting was very uncomfortable, and I know it's meant to be uncomfortable, it did actually remind me a lot of the Columbine. So I can understand if he did see an early screening why he would be so upset by it. To quote the article, to be clear, Mauser doesn't think anyone who has ever considered violence but not gone through with it should be condemned. On the contrary, he's encouraging anyone who has had these ideations to go talk it out with a therapist. However, Mauser doesn't want it to be used for entertainment. And I also think that is valid. I am not going to say that this man is wrong or is just missing the point or doesn't get it. I thought this film was going to sensationalize the big reveal, and at some parts with the photos it kind of does, but the more I think about it, this film actually goes deeper than spectacle, and in fact it actually does show how prevalent violence is in media, especially references to violence. Charlie has a mug that says coffee or I'll you. He works as a museum director, and one of the photography books that's on his desk has images of models holding, and he imagines Emma holding a like the models. I didn't catch this, but I did see on Threads that their engagement photo that's on their refrigerator, instead of her holding up her hand to show off the engagement ring, it shows finger guns, which is very subtle, and it's a darkly comedic moment, but I just thought I will throw that out there. When they go to their wedding photography session, the photographer talks about her shot list, meaning what she's going to photograph, but she uses the language shooting, which of course is very common in the industry, but it does become cringeworthy and intense sequence because of the conversation that Emma and Charlie just had, making their photo shoot very intense and uncomfortable. That is a very brilliant sequence. And for those that have watched the trailer, now we know why the photo shoot was very uncomfortable. One of the questions that this film brings up is, what is considered a bad thing? And I just want to say for the film girlies, I think everything that everyone does in this movie is bad. But what I found interesting while scripting this is that Emma is the only one that didn't end up going through with the bad thought that she had. I realized that Emma is the only one that ended up not hurting anyone, whether that be physically, mentally, or emotionally. I mean, Mike literally used his ex as a human shield, hurting her physically, even though the ex did kick a dog, but he did not need to do that to her, regardless if she was mean or not. And I'm a dog lover too, but I'm telling you, like, I would not use my partner as a human shield. I will dump them, but I will not do that to them. I would not hurt them in the process. And Rachel left her neighbor, and she really didn't care about his feelings and his safety. She only cared about herself. With that being said, we have to talk about Rachel. The internet has beef with Rachel, and so do I. Again, Rachel is played brilliantly by Alana Hayim. Like, oh my gosh. But Rachel only cares about herself. Fantastic Frankie. She actually does a very great video about Rachel, how she's just the epitome of white woman victimhood and white woman tears, because she literally uses the trauma of her cousin, who she probably is barely even close with, for her own gain, and to weaponize that against Emma. And she just goes after Emma for most of the movie, like she doesn't talk to her, that she doesn't even want to go to the wedding because of this big secret reveal. She's just doing the most. She just has so much audacity. And she even invites her cousin to work in person to talk to her about whether or not she should go to the wedding. And Charlie does run into Sam, who is the cousin. And after this awkward encounter by him being frantic, he just says that Sam will love Emma. And even though this casting, as far as race, was most likely unintentional, because Zendaya actually doesn't pick roles that are meant for Black women. She picks roles that were written for white women initially, and then the casting essentially surrounds Zendaya being a biracial Black woman. And with Zendaya being a biracial Black woman, it really does hit differently than what it would be if portrayed by a white woman. And there is a little bit of discourse online about, oh, Zendaya was miscast because a Black woman wouldn't do that. But that's actually the point of the casting, and actually hits a little bit harder because it is so unexpected. We don't often see mash like that for women in general, really, but let alone a Black woman, let alone a biracial woman with a Black dad and a white mom. And even though Rachel's husband is Black, she doesn't have any tact, and she automatically jumps to conclusions about Emma's character. And even though this film doesn't explicitly explore the racial dynamics, I think it didn't need to, because yeah, we have eyeballs, and it just adds a very interesting layer to this film. Which also brings up another question of this film. Can people actually change, and can they grow out of their behaviors? After Emma reveals the secret, obviously Charlie is paranoid that she might have a murderous streak to her, because she thought about that when she was a teenager. When they're at their apartment, she walks into the room with a knife because she's cutting up fruit for a smoothie, and he freaks out, and with her playful personality, she acts like she's gonna him. She really doesn't. But Charlie is not innocent either, and let's go into Charlie, because he does way worse than the cyberbullying when he was a young teenager. He has a conversation with his coworker Misha, played by Haley Gates. He asks her what's the worst thing that she's ever done, and she mentions that she cheated on her ex-boyfriend. And he asks her the hypothetical question: if she found out that her current boyfriend, Blake, was planning a school shooting and didn't go through with it, how would she respond? And she said that she would end things, especially with Blake being such a muscular guy that she would fear for her life. Charlie goes back and forth with her because essentially he is defending Emma in this situation, because obviously he's thinking about Emma. And Misha says, well, he would be a psycho, and I don't want to date a psycho, or something along those lines. And Charlie freaks out and yells and leaves the room. And he starts having a panic attack in the other room. But he ends up kissing Misha, and Misha was down to smash. She pulled up her dress and everything. And I'm like, girl, no, did you just say you regret cheating on your ex? But Charlie stops it, and yeah, Charlie was wrong for kissing her in the first place. Emma then decides to fire Pauline, the DJ that was caught smoking, and Pauline says that she wasn't smoking. Emma fires her anyway, and Charlie barely says anything, if anything at all. And to my surprise, the couple end up getting married. I even wrote in my notes, they got married, question mark? I was surprised. I thought they were going to end things. But yeah, they they exchange vows and all that. Like, as we could see from the trailer, and we do see scenes of a wedding, but I was almost expecting that they would call it off during the wedding ceremony or something like that, you know, in typical movie fashion. But to my surprise, something else goes down. So now they are at the wedding reception and there's wedding speeches. They hire a new DJ. Charlie is stressed out because he kissed Misha, and actually Misha is at the wedding with her boyfriend Blake. Emma's father gives his wedding speech. From his perspective, he believes that Emma is just a sweet girl who joined an anti-gun violence group, which contrasts with him being ex-military. And I believe he was also a cop. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Rachel scoffs the entire time during this speech. Obviously, I'm like, look, you didn't even have to show up, Rachel. Like, you're terrible. But Rachel does do a passive-aggressive maid of honor speech. She said that she was so surprised that Emma asked her to be her maid of honor. She references that Emma is not an honest person, but she says that Emma and Charlie are perfect together. Again, I'm just paraphrasing, but yeah, just know it's passive aggressive. There is a little break in between speeches, and Emma is paranoid that her secret is going to come out, namely because Rachel is a terrible person. Emma goes to the bathroom to try to calm herself down. Of course, not before taking a swig of the liquor that is in the cabinet and the venue. While she's in the bathroom, she overhears who she thinks is Rachel talking about her behind her back, but it's actually Misha talking to another guest. They bump into each other when Emma's on her way out of the bathroom. And of course, this is an awkward encounter. Emma then brings Charlie into another room to express her concerns about the guest gossiping. Emma then brings Misha into the room to confront her. And in full drama fashion, Misha believes that Emma is actually referring to the kiss. And of course, Emma is shocked. Like, what? Oh, the tea is piping hot, film girlies. And of course, it is time for the bride and groom speeches. Mike first introduces Emma, but Emma is like, I don't want to talk to you. Well, she doesn't literally say that, but it's giving that vibe. So then Mike introduces Charlie's speech. And after all that time, he was writing his speech and then re-editing it. And it goes as well as you would expect it to go. Horribly, horribly wrong. He rambles. He ends up actually talking about their sex life, which Mike warned him not to do. But he does try to reaffirm his love for Emma and says that he didn't do anything. And of course, the guests are like, what do you mean he didn't do anything? And he apologizes for cheating on her with Misha. And of course, Blake, being a wedding guest, Misha's boyfriend, asks Misha very loudly if they slept together. And of course, Misha does a horrible job of calming her boyfriend down. Blake walks up to Charlie and headbutts him. And of course, chaos ensues. And Rachel's over there too, trying to scrap as well. Like, what the heck, Rachel? You need to set your butt down. I can't stand Rachel. I really can't. Emma ends up leaving, and Charlie is all bloodied and bruised. We often don't really get too many messy wedding reception scenes in cinema. We usually get messy weddings, like the ceremony. So I do appreciate the change of pace. And my first thought after this scene, other than, oh my gosh, what the heck just happened? But the question that I thought of was, should couples hide big secrets from their significant others? For me, I'm an open communication person, especially when it comes to any type of serious romantic relationship. If there is something that's like a red flag or whatever, I should be the one to determine whether or not that's a red flag for me. I also should have the autonomy about what's a deal breaker for me, because a lot of the time the secret isn't really that bad or embarrassing. And it kind of feels like hiding the secret is a little bit more sketch, because I believe the truth is going to come out eventually, like in this film. But on the flip side, I do kind of believe that people should reveal things in their own timing. But when it comes to like big things, I think you should feel comfortable with your partner. But that's just my perspective. Let me know what you think, because I know this could go back and forth and go different ways. And I think an idea that this film explores is, what's your true feelings versus public perception? what actually determines your feelings towards a person? Because both characters end up thinking a lot about what the public thinks about them, especially towards the end of the movie. Weddings are just already a high pressure situation. The spotlight is on the bride and groom, but especially the bride. At least in the West, it always surrounds the bride. So they probably are thinking that they have a lot to lose, not only losing each other potentially, but also possibly losing other people. I really like how this film shows both of the leads' anxieties about the big secret. Emma, she just really wants to make Charlie happy, and she's always been that type of woman. Whenever he is sad, she plays a song for him. I don't mean to sound like an armchair therapist or anything, but she is very conflict avoidant, which I find very fascinating in hindsight, actually. And I didn't even clock this until actually right now, but like, she really is, and it's very ironic because she didn't plan this out of wanting to start conflict. She was bullied. But also Charlie, he cares a lot about what other people think. And I think this whole like my opinion versus public opinion thing, he's really kind of thinking about himself for the most part, but he's also very curious about what other people think about his relationship too. We mostly get his perspective because at first he's freaked out, and then he realized like, hey, this is my woman. He started seeing her humanity. That actually brings me to the next scene where we see Charlie back at their house. He's all bloodied and bruised up, and he plays the song that Emma plays for him when he's upset, and he dances around and everything, and like this film likes to do, he throws up, he vomits out of nervousness and or whatever. Maybe it's a dank food that they have at the wedding. Do you think they had some bad risotto? I think they did. I think they had some bad risotto. but anyway, he ends up throwing up. But he finds himself also at a burger joint. He orders his food, and we see Emma in her wedding dress and a big orange jacket. By the way, I predict that this is going to be a couple's costume for Halloween. I'm placing my bets right now. But Emma takes a seat at their table, and she reintroduces herself like they are meeting for the first time. And this scene is actually foreshadowed in two ways. Before the big secret reveal, when they're finalizing their menu of Mike and Rachel, Rachel talks about how she and Mike barely got to eat their food at their wedding, so they end up getting a slice of pizza afterwards. And Emma actually really likes the idea of them getting dressed up in their formal attire and eating burgers, like after award shows. And the second scene is when Emma tries to roleplay their first meeting with Charlie after a tense moment. Again, she is very conflict avoidant, so she wants to try to cheer him up. And I just thought this was such a great ending. And this brings me to the biggest question of the film, which is love truly unconditional? Personally, I don't think so to a certain extent. I think love is unconditional for what we can tolerate. Humans aren't perfect. We are so flawed. We are so vain. We are cold and we mess up, and even materialist at times. And that may or may not be a foreshadow to my next video essay. But we do strive for unconditional love for our person and the people that we love. This film had an Easter release in the US. And of course, like Hollywood, they love doing holiday releases. But with it being released on Easter weekend, it unintentionally reminded me of a Bible verse. So hear me out, y'all. Sometimes scenes of movies remind me of Bible verses. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. And this is from John chapter 15, verses 12 through 13, the ESV translation. And this quote is coming from Jesus. And if we're getting biblical, that's truly the Easter story wrapped up. But this also reminds me of the film because it's about sacrificing for your loved ones and to love each other with the agape love, which is unconditional love. Of course, in a biblical context, Jesus died for our sins, lessons. And I'm not comparing Charlie and Emma to Jesus because that'll be insane. But this is a lesson about giving people grace. And Charlie does accept Emma for who she is at the end, even though her secret was very shocking to him. But at the end, he loved her flaws and quirks and history and all. And even though the situation isn't literally life or death, and he didn't literally lay down his life for her, he is giving up a lot by staying with her potentially. He is giving up his reputation to the people that know her secret. He is definitely giving up some friendships. I mean, Rachel, that friendship has sailed. Depending on Mike's loyalty, he's probably going to lose his best friend through this situation. Emma, for the most part, is pretty unscathed, but then again, the news came out that Charlie did cheat on her, so there might be that why did you take him back situation. But again, Emma gives Charlie grace in that. She doesn't question him. She does care for him. This film does have a love is unconditional message to it. But ultimately, I think the message is about giving your loved ones grace. And for that, I think Charlie and Emma are better than a lot of us. But I do think Emma still deserves better because, oh my gosh, she was ironically the least problematic character of this entire movie. So yes, justice for Emma. What do you think of the drama, the themes, and the questions that this film posed? I am so looking forward to hearing your thoughts, so please spill the tea in the comments. This is a safe space for the film girlies. Give this video a like if you like the vibe, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on the latest video. And I will see you at the next party. Bye-bye.